I'm chatting with Anthony Parker here at an innovation workshop in Gravesend, where lots of people have come together for the day to work up ways in which technology can benefit neighbourhoods. And we got into a conversation about how things have changed in recent years. And although today is actually about a challenge where there's a prize at the end of the day, it sounds as though there's great benefit in just bringing people together and seeing ways in which the data that councils hold could be handled by developers to community benefit. Do you want to expand a bit on that, Anthony?
I think the real benefit here is it's an opportunity for ideas which the public wish to put forward can be picked up by the developers here, and the councils can. I'm doing.
No, you're going fine. The point that I think what was sparking with me was that kind of a few years ago it would have been a situation in which the council would have needed some budget to go out and identify community needs. They would have had to come up with a brief. They would have had to tender that out to developers and so forth. And probably at the end of the day, you wouldn't necessarily get what was useful to people. But you're kind of acting as brokers now, and it kind of sounds like a 3 or 4 way situation where you're talking, you're offering people in the community the opportunity to say, here's what we need. You're then going to developers, hey guys, we've got some ideas on this, if we pitch our data into it. I mean, am I getting that?
No, you've got
that's
exactly right. Yeah, that's completely right. And it really does come down to a win-win-win scenario. We want to get what the public want available. We want to understand what it is that they would find the most beneficial to them. Given the opportunities of providing the open source data, for example, and being able to take advantage of the developers, the third-party developers, they're able to do the hard work in developing the applications. We're able to provide that open source information, and the public are able to benefit from the information, the result, from what is then made available.
And a couple of things there. I mean, first of all, how do the developers get paid at the end of the day for this? There's value, but there has to be money in it as well. And then secondly, what's the technology implications in this? And what's the data protection implications? That may be one for Darren. Who wants to pick up on who gets paid?
Well, certainly this sort of scenario we're in at the moment, initially we're looking at applications that are being designed on a fairly, I don't think there's any real profit involved at all, but in the longer term, the way in which the developer would be paid would be they'd be able to sell their applications to the general public. So they're able to open up not only methods of accessing data which they could then sell on to a much larger market, because we're just talking about Kent here at the moment. Potentially they could take their applications much further afield and sell them to a much broader market.
And is that because what we're talking about here is small apps? That it's sell it to the public? Well, if it was on a council website, that's big bucks selling it to the council. But it sounds like we're talking about a couple of pounds on a smartphone here. That's amazing. But Darren, at the other end of things, this only works because you're able to release data, presumably.
Yeah, that's right. And more and more data is being made available as part of the government's overall transparency agenda. So more and more public sector data is being put onto websites such as Open Kent, which is, aggregating all of the data which should be made available to enable local authorities and public sector organisations to be more transparent in their business. Now, of course, it's one thing providing a whole lot of data out there, but the real sort of the real challenge there is for how can all of this data which is now being provided be made to really deliver useful results and enable comparisons to be made, and innovative ways of using that data, which we haven't even thought of yet. And I think that's the area where an event like today is really exciting, because it's bringing together those ideas that might not, when the data is being made available, these ideas as to what we're actually using the data for now, wasn't even thought about. Now we're saying, right, we've got all of this data, what are we going to do with it? How can we use that? And I think, events such as today is really going to start to unlock some of that potential.
We're talking about data. How much of that is potentially personal? Will people start twitching and say, hang on, the council has got my stuff? If they're going to start sharing with other people, are there problems of confidentiality and so forth? How do you handle that?
So the types of data that we're talking about aren't actually personal details that we hold for administration of things like, council tax and the electoral register. These are more transparency information, such as land that organisations, like public sector organisations, own, things about spending data, how taxpayers' money is actually being spent in organisations, and the work that public sector authorities do, the business which goes on out there in the community, data relating to that. So yes, what we're not doing is saying that we're going to be exposing any kind of, personally identifiable information which could raise data protection issues. But nevertheless, government has to be accountable to the public that it serves, and the data which is being made available to help that is what we're looking to use today to come up with these applications.